Let's get one thing straight. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You're not stuck because of your parents, your boss, your school, or your government. You're stuck because of one simple habit that's eating away at your potential every single day, making excuses. Excuses are comfortable. They let you off the hook. Well, they make you feel better in the moment, but in the long run, they destroy your progress. Every time you say, I can't, or I'm not lucky like them, or it's not the right time, what you're really doing is handing over the keys to your life. You're giving away your control. And when you're giving away control, you also give away your shot at success. Now, let's be real. Life isn't fair. Some people are born into wealth. Some are born into struggle. Some get handed opportunities. Some have to dig them out of the dirt. That's just how the game is set up. But here's the part no one wants to hear. Well, none of that matters if you refuse to play your hand properly. Think of your life like a card game. You don't control the cards you're dealt, but you sure as hell control how you play them. And winners don't cry over bad hands. Winners figure out how to bluff hustle, learn, and outmaneuver the odds. They take ownership. Total unshakable, no excuses ownership. It starts with your mindset. Instead of saying, I didn't have time, say, I didn't prioritize it. That's ownership. Instead of saying, they didn't help me, say, I didn't ask the right way or find another way. That's ownership. When something goes wrong in your business, your job, your goals, don't look around for someone to blame. Look in the mirror. Now, don't get this twisted. Taking ownership doesn't mean beating yourself up. It doesn't mean living in guilt or self-pity. It means empowering yourself. Because when you say, this is on me, you're also saying, I have the power to change it. And that's where real confidence comes from. Not from likes, not from praise, well, not from fake motivation quotes online, but from knowing deep down that you're the kind of person who takes full responsibility for your life. And here's the thing, the world respects that. Your boss respects it. Your team respects it. Investors respect it. No one wants to work with a finger pointer. They want someone who says, well, I messed up and here's what I'm doing to fix it. That's leadership. That's integrity. Well, that's how you stand out in a sea of people who are still stuck making excuses about the economy, their schedule, or their mood. Let's talk about the difference between reasons and excuses, because some people try to hide behind this little gray area. Yes, there are legitimate reasons things are hard. You might have kids. You might have debt. You might be working 2 jobs. No one's saying those things don't exist, but if you let them become the default explanation for every delay, well, failure or missed opportunity, you're using them as excuses. The moment you start saying, this is hard, but it's my responsibility to push through, you shift your whole reality. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start building progress in imperfect ones. You stop asking for less challenge and start building more capacity. You stop trying to survive and start training to thrive. Ownership also means doing the boring stuff, the unglamorous stuff. Success isn't always sexy. It's spreadsheets, early mornings, late nights, hard conversations, personal discipline, and showing up even when you don't feel like it. That's ownership too, being willing to carry your own weight without someone watching over your shoulder. Want to start a business? Don't blame the algorithm. Learn it. Don't cry that no one taught yourself. Want to get fit? Don't say you have no time. Cut Netflix. Want to get rich? Don't say you weren't born into it. Build it. That mindset is rare. Most people would rather complain. They'd rather feel right than actually win. But the people who win, they drop the ego. They get honest. They take the blame. And then they take control. You'll notice something magical happens when you start owning everything. People start trusting you more. Opportunities start showing up more. And most importantly, you trust yourself more. Because deep down, well, you know you're not waiting for the world to give you permission anymore. You're giving it to yourself. Failure is not your enemy. The way you think about failure, that's the real threat. Most people treat failure like a wall. They hit it, it hurts, and they back off forever. But successful people, they treat failure like a ladder. Every fall is just another step they learn, climb better next time. Let's be clear, you are going to fail. Well, you're going to mess up. You'll launch ideas that flop, make decisions you regret, trust people who let you down, and take risks that don't pay off. That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. That's a sign you're actually trying. The only people who never fail are the ones who never start. Now, here's the twisting. Every time you fail, you get better. If you're paying attention, failure is feedback. It's life's way of testing you, refining you, and forcing you to grow. Well, it's your greatest teacher if you stop taking it personally. Too many people think failure means they're not good enough. That's nonsense. Failure means you were brave enough to try something most people are too scared to even attempt. Think about a baby learning to walk. They fall 100 times. Do they give up? No. Well, they fall, cry, wobble, try again. Why? Because no one told them falling is failure. They just assume it's part of the process. Then somewhere along the way, society teaches you to be ashamed of falling. Your friends mock your mistakes. Your parents scold your report card. Your teachers highlight what you did wrong more than what you did right. Well, so you grow up thinking failure is a sign of weakness. But in reality, it's a sign of effort. The people who make it to the top didn't avoid failure. They racked up more failures than anyone else. The difference is they didn't quit. They failed forward. They used every mistake as a stepping stone. They weren't afraid to look stupid. They weren't scared to be wrong. They cared more of learning than looking perfect. And here's the part most people miss. So failure builds character. When you fail and get back up, you become more resilient, more resourceful, more grounded. Success without failure usually leads to arrogance, but success that's earned through failure, that builds humility, gratitude, and real confidence. You stop being afraid of challenges because you know you've taken hits and survived. Well, you know you can take another and still move forward. Look at any business owner, any investor, any leader who's actually doing well, and I guarantee you they've got a list of failures longer than their list of wins. Failed startups, bad hires, missed deadlines, broken deals, and embarrassing moments. But those scars, that's what made them sharp. Every failure refined their judgment. Every mistake taught them something school never could. But the trick isn't just to fail. It's to learn from the failure. If you keep making the same mistake over and over again, that's not failing forward. That's just being stubborn or lazy. Failing forward means reflecting on what happened, adjusting your strategy, and trying again with more wisdom. It means saying, all right, that didn't work. Why? And using that answer to make your next attempt better. Most people are terrified of failure because they think it defines them. But failure doesn't define you. How you respond to it does. Do you use it as an excuse to give up, or do you use it as fuel to go harder? Well, that's the only thing that separates the winners from the quitters. It's not luck. It's how they handle failure when it punches them in the mouth. Let's say you start a side hustle and it goes nowhere. You spent months on it and no one bought your product. Great. That means you just learned what doesn't work. Most people would delete the website, cry about it, and say, guess I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. But a smart person would look at the data, talk to customers, figure out what was off, and then launch a better version. Failing forward isn't glamorous. It doesn't make headlines. It won't get you a viral TikTok. But it builds a foundation that actually lasts. You're building skill, you're building grit, and you're building the ability to adapt when the world throws you curveballs. When you learn to embrace failure, you stop fearing it. And when you stop fearing it, you take bigger risks. And when you take bigger risks, you create bigger rewards. Well, that's the real formula behind every story you admire. Someone took a risk, failed, and refused to stay down. Success has a funny way of testing you, not just when you're starting, but especially when you start winning. See, when you're broke, struggling, and desperate to change your life, it's easy to stay hungry. You've got nothing to lose. You're willing to hustle, learn, sacrifice, and grind. But the real test comes when things start going right, when the bank balance grows, the followers show up, the results start coming in. That's when most people get soft. They lose the hunger that got them there. They think they've made it. They start sleeping in, cutting corners, showing off instead of leveling up. They post wins on social media and forget there's still a bigger mountain ahead. That's when progress stalls. That's when ego takes over. And ego, it's the number one success killer. Stay hungry means you never let comfort become your cage. It means you keep thinking like a student, no matter how much you've accomplished. It's the mindset of never being satisfied, not in a negative, self-hating way, but in a way that constantly pushes for more growth, more learning, more contribution. You look at your wins, sure, but only long enough to say, good job. Now, what's next? You've got to understand something. Success isn't permanent. The moment you stop adapting, you start falling behind. The skills that made you money last year might be useless tomorrow. The platform that gave you reach today might shadow ban you next week. The product that worked in one market might flop in the next. If you're not hungry, you won't see it coming. If you're not constantly improving, someone else will, and they'll eat your lunch while you're too busy celebrating yesterday's results. But here's the other side of the coin. Stay humble. This one's even harder to live when success starts knocking. You see some people make a little progress and suddenly they act like they're untouchable. They look down on others. They think they've got all the answers. They stop listening, stop learning, and start believing their own hype. That attitude creates a bubble, and inside that bubble, you go blind to reality. You start making dumb decisions. You stop hearing feedback, and eventually you crash. Staying humble means remembering where you started. Well, it means treating the janitor with the same respect as the CEO. It means realizing that no matter how much you know, there's always someone who knows more. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Humility keeps you grounded. It keeps you coachable. And being coachable is what allows you to continue leveling up long after others plateau. You don't have to downplay your achievements. Be proud of them. But don't let pride become poison. The moment you think you're too good to fail, too big to fall, or too experienced to be challenged, you're setting yourself up for a rude awakening. There's always another level. There's always someone working harder than you. And the people who really dominate their field, they've mastered the balance. They've figured out how to keep the fire burning while keeping their ego in check. Stay hungry means you show up every day like it's your first day with curiosity, discipline, and fire in your gut. It means you treat small tasks with big energy. You study like you're broke, even if you're not. You practice like you're behind, even if you're ahead. You put in the hours, even when no one's watching. Stay humble means you know success is a privilege, not a personality trait. You're grateful, not arrogant. You remember the people who helped you along the way. You don't pretend to be perfect. You stay real, honest, and aware that growth never ends. You admit when you're wrong. You ask for help when you need it. You don't flex your wins to feel superior. You use them as proof that hard work pays off, not that you're better than anyone else. Most people pick one. They're either hungry or humble. But if you want to win long term, you've got to be both. Hunger gives you the engine. Humility gives you the steering. Together, they keep you moving forward, fast, focused, and aligned. You'll face moments where success tempts you to relax. You'll have people hyping you up, inflating your ego, telling you're next level. And in those moments, you have to remind yourself the grind never ends and neither does the learning. When you think you've arrived, you stop growing. When you act like a beginner, even at the top, you open yourself up to become unstoppable. If you're relying on just one source of income, you're playing the game on hard mode. You're putting your entire financial future in the hands of a single paycheck, a single business, or a single client. And that's not just risky, it's reckless. Because the world can change fast, economies crash, companies downsize, clients ghost, trends fade. And if all your income is tied to one stream, when it dries up, you're stranded. That's why building multiple income streams isn't just a good idea. It's a survival strategy. It's the difference between living in fear and living in control, between reacting to life and creating it on your own terms. And no, this doesn't mean you have to start 5 businesses tomorrow. It means you start thinking like someone who builds systems, not someone who lives paycheck to paycheck. Let's start with a basic truth. Most people are taught to trade time for money. You work an hour, you get paid an hour. That's how jobs work. And it's fine until you realize time is limited. You can't work 100 hours a day. So if your income only grows when you work more hours, you're stuck on a treadmill that never stops. The only way to break that cycle is by building income that doesn't depend on your daily effort. That's where passive and semi-passive income streams come in. Things like digital products, online courses, affiliate marketing, content creation, stock dividends, rental properties, licensing deals. These are income streams that keep working even when you're sleeping, even when you're sick, even when you're on a beach or at your kid's football game. They work because you built them once and now they work for you over and over again. But don't romanticize it. Passive income isn't easy. It's not set it and forget it. It takes real upfront effort. You have to build a product, learn the platform, create the content, study the market, build the email list, optimize the system. It's work, just different work. But once it's running, it gives you leverage. And leverage is how people build wealth, not just a living. Even if you're working a full-time job, you can start building income streams on the side. Start freelancing in the evening, sell digital assets, offer a service online, start a YouTube channel around what you're good at. Turn your knowledge into a course. You don't need a massive following. You just need consistency. The compound effect of small move at a time creates massive results later on. Multiple income streams also give you something just as important as money, peace of mind. When one stream slows down, the others keep you afloat. It removes the desperation from your decision making. You stop needing every deal to close. You stop chasing clients just to make rent. You stop making short-term choices out of fear and start thinking long-term with confidence. And here's another benefiting. Multiple streams make you think bigger. They force you to learn new skills, experiment, take risks, and stop putting all your self-worth into one role. You stop saying, I'm just a teacher or just an engineer. You start thinking like a creator, a problem solver, an entrepreneur. You realize your identity doesn't have to be tied to one job title or one income line. You can be 5 things at once and monetize each one differently. But don't make the mistake of spreading yourself too thin. More streams don't always mean more money, especially if they're all weak. Focus first on building one solid, sustainable stream. Get it working. Then reinvest the income, skills, and time it gives you into building the next one. Stack your streams strategically, not frantically. Think quality over quantity. You also don't need to be a genius to do this. Most people overestimate what they need to start. They think they need a fancy camera to launch a YouTube channel or thousands of dollars to invest in stocks or a full-blown team to sell a product. What you really need is to start with what you have, learn as you go, and build small systems that get better with time. Technology has leveled the playing field. You've got tools, platforms, and knowledge at your fingertips that billionaires 20 years ago didn't even have access to. You don't need permission to publish, sell, or scale. You just need the mindset to stop waiting and the discipline to stay consistent. Multiple income streams aren't about greed. They're about freedom. Freedom from panic when the market dips. Freedom from toxic jobs. Freedom to take a risk. Freedom to say no. Well, freedom to walk away when something feels right because your income doesn't depend on one thing holding you hostage. No matter what you do, people will talk. Some will love you. Some will hate you, some will cheer you on, and others will wait for you to trip. And the higher you climb, the louder it gets. That's the price of showing up, speaking out, and standing for something in a world full of people too afraid to try. If you're chasing success and expecting everyone to clap for you, you're in for a shock because the second you stand out, you become a target. People love to criticize what they don't understand. It's easier to mock than to build. Well, it's easier to scroll and sneer than to get up and grind. That's why anyone doing something different, loud, or ambitious ends up being judged. Well, it doesn't matter how much value you bring. Someone will say it's fake. It doesn't matter how hard you worked. Someone will say you got lucky. Well, it doesn't matter how honest your intention are. Someone will twist it into something negative. You'll hear things like, he's just doing it for views. She only got there because of her looks. That guy's advice is too basic. That business is a scam. It comes with the territory. Well, the more visible you become, the more you attract opinions from people who've never walked in your shoes, never seen your grind, and never tried to do what you're doing. And if you're not ready for it, that noise can shake you. It can distract you. It can make you doubt yourself. That's why the most successful people don't rely on approval. They rely on alignment. They know their mission. They know their values, and they stay focused on impact, not applause. They read the comments, sure, well, but they don't let the comments define them. They take feedback, but they don't take it personally. Well, because they've figured out that you can't build something bold if you're constantly trying to please everyone. Mixed public opinions are a sign that you're visible. They mean you're reaching beyond your comfort zone, saying something real, doing something risky. People don't hate the mediocre. They ignore it, but the moment you say something that cuts through the noise, whether it's in business, content, leadership, or lifestyle, you'll stir emotion. You'll make people uncomfortable. Well, and that's exactly where change begins. You'll find 3 types of critics. First, the insecure ones. They hate seeing someone else do what they're too scared to try. They'll tear you down to feel taller. Second, the bored ones. They have nothing going on, so Tearing people down becomes their entertainment. And third, the genuinely concerned ones. They might think they're helping, but they're projecting their own fears onto you. Then there's your audience, the people who do see the value, well, who get what you're building, who've been helped by your words, your work, your energy. The quiet majority that won't always comment, but they're watching. They're learning. They're sharing your content with a friend. They're applying your advice to their lives. And for every loud troll, there are 10 silent supporters who never say a word, but are actually being impacted. Mixed public opinions aren't a red flag. They're a filter. They help you see who your real audience is. They help you refine your message. They make you sharper, clearer, and stronger. Some of the greatest brands, creators, and entrepreneurs in the world built their success while being doubted, mocked, or hated along the way. But they didn't flinch. They used the criticism as fuel. Now, not all criticism is trash. Some of it will be fair. You will mess up. You will say the wrong thing, take the wrong step, launch something that flops. And when that happens, listen. Learn, own it, but don't spiral, don't shrink, don't abandon your vision just because some random person with a cartoon avatar doesn't approve. Learn to separate hate from helpful critique. One is poison, the other is polish. If you're waiting until everyone approves before you act, you'll never move. Well, if you need validation before you launch, you'll stay stuck. And if you change your message every time someone disagrees, you'll end up with nothing worth saying. You can be the juiciest peach in the orchard and someone will still hate peaches. That's not your problem. You can't silence the opinions, but you can choose what you do with them. You can spend your energy arguing with strangers, or you can double down on your mission. You can let the noise distract you, or let it remind you that you're playing big enough to be noticed. You can chase applause, or you can chase alignment with your values, your goals, and the people you're actually trying to serve. Well, most people are broke not because they're lazy, because they were never taught how money actually works. Well, think about it. School teaches you how to solve algebra problems you'll never use again, but says nothing about budgeting, credit, scores, taxes, investing, or even how to read a payslip. That's not a coincidence. A system that keeps people financially uneducated keeps them dependent. And dependence makes them easier to control, easier to sell to, and easier to keep in the rat race. That's why financial literacy is a superpower. The moment you start understanding how money works, really works, you start making better decisions. You stop chasing shiny distractions. You stop living paycheck to paycheck. You stop falling for scams disguised as opportunities. You begin thinking long term. You begin protecting your time and energy. And most importantly, you begin building a life where you are in control, not your boss, not your bills. The truth is most adults are financially illiterate and don't even realize it. Well, they confuse a high income with wealth. They think saving money is enough. They assume debt is just part of life. And because no one challenged those ideas when they were younger, well, they repeat them generation after generation. That's how the cycle of financial struggle keeps spinning. But the cycle breaks the moment someone gets curious and starts asking better questions. Financial literacy doesn't mean you need to be a stock market expert or a crypto wizard. It means you understand the basics of money management, how to earn, how to spend wisely, how to save with purpose, how to invest for growth, and how to protect what you've built. Well, it means knowing how compound interest works for you instead of against you. It means understanding that liabilities disguised as assets, like a brand new car bought on credit, keep you broke even if you look rich on Instagram. One of the most powerful parts of encouraging financial literacy is that it gives people permission to take responsibility. Not the kind of responsibility that comes with guilt or shame, well, but the kind that comes with clarity and confidence. You realize you're not stuck. You realize that even small changes, tracking your expenses, cutting unnecessary subscriptions, building an emergency fund can start changing your financial trajectory. You also learn that income is just one piece of the puzzle. What matters more is how you manage what you make. There are people earning six figures who are still broke because their lifestyle inflated as fast as their salary. Financial literacy teaches you how to make your money work for you instead of working for money your whole life. It shifts your mindset from consumer to creator, from borrower to builder. And here's the thing. They don't teach this in school because it would make people powerful. Imagine a society where the average 18-year-old knows how to invest, how to avoid high interest debt, how to start a business online, and how to build passive income streams. That's not just freedom. That's leverage. That's the kind of education that creates independent thinkers, not obedient employees. Encouraging financial literacy isn't just about wealth. It's about options. It's about not being stuck in a job you hate just to pay rent. It's about having the breathing room to take a risk, to say no to toxic people or situations, to walk away from scarcity and towards something meaningful. It's about not losing sleep over bills or dreading the first of the month. That's what real financial freedom feels like. And it starts with education. Teaching financial literacy also challenges the myths that keep people small, like the idea that money is evil, or that rich people are greedy, or that if you want to make money, you have to screw someone over. These are limiting beliefs passed down through generations by people who never had access to real financial knowledge. Once you learn how money works, you stop fearing it, stop worshipping it, and start using it as a tool. Not a symbol of status, but a resource for impact. Encouraging others to learn about money has a ripple effect. When one person in a family learns how to budget, save, and invest, that knowledge gets passed down. When someone teaches their little brother how credit cards actually work, or helps their parents understand interest rates, or shows a friend how to start an online side hustle, it spreads. Financial literacy is contagious. And once someone tastes the power of being financially informed, they rarely go back to being passive about their money ever again. The more people learn how to manage, multiply, and protect their money, the less power the system has over them. They stop falling for payday loans, they stop living in survival mode, and they start building something that lasts. Well, that's how you go from stress to secure, from stuck to strategic, from struggling to scaling,